The Vicari High Council chamber hung suspended in geosynchronous orbit above their capital world, its crystalline walls refracting the light of twin suns into prismatic patterns across the assembled alien dignitaries. Dr. Emma Reynolds stood alone at the center of the chamber, her diplomatic uniform crisp despite the 12-hour negotiation session. She remained perfectly still, maintaining eye contact with High Chancellor Voss as he towered over her from his elevated platform. "Your proposal is denied," Voss announced, his secondary breathing chambers pulsing with barely contained contempt. "The Vicari Imperium does not accept technology from primitive species who have barely managed to escape their own gravity well." Emma's voice remained steady, even as she noticed the chamber's security forces shifting positions around her. "Chancellor, with respect, Earth's medical advancements could save millions of your people. The cancer treatment protocol we've developed." Silence. Voss's external membranes flared, a sign of aggression that every alien diplomat in the chamber recognized. But Emma didn't flinch. "You dare to suggest that we need help from a species that only achieved faster-than-light travel through borrowed technology?" The chamber's temperature dropped several degrees as environmental controls responded to the Chancellor's agitation. Emma reached slowly into her pocket and withdrew a small holographic projector. "These are the results of our clinical trials, showing complete remission in even the most aggressive forms of." A sharp gesture from Voss, and one of the guards fired. The energy beam struck the projector first, vaporizing it instantly before continuing through Emma's chest. She collapsed without a sound, her expression more surprised than afraid. "Let this be a lesson," Voss addressed the assembled diplomatic corps, while Emma's body cooled on the polished floor. "The Vicari Imperium does not tolerate presumption from lesser beings." The chamber erupted in murmurs and gestures of shock. Not at the killing. Diplomatic executions weren't uncommon in Vicari space, but at the boldness of eliminating a representative from an unknown factor like Earth. Several ambassadors immediately began composing messages to their governments, calculating how this would shift the balance of power. None of them noticed the quantum lock data burst that shot from Emma's neural implant the moment her heart stopped beating. 12 light-years away, in a secured command center beneath the Pentagon, Rear Admiral Catherine Reynolds watched her sister die. The holographic replay showed every detail in perfect clarity, from multiple angles captured by Emma's diplomatic sensors. Catherine's face remained expressionless as she completed the retinal scan that would unlock humanity's response protocols. "Admiral," her XO, Commander Marcus Torres, stood at attention nearby. "The President is asking if we should attempt diplomatic channels first." Catherine's fingers traced the edge of the red terminal built into her command station. "The Vicari just showed us exactly what they think of diplomatic channels, Commander." She straightened her uniform and turned to face the wall of screens showing Earth's hidden military capabilities. "Execute Operation Starcross. All phases." "Ma'am," Torres hesitated, "that would reveal everything we've been building for the past 15 years. My sister spent her life creating chances for peace." Catherine's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "The Vicari just executed her for trying to save their people from a disease we've already cured." She pressed her palm against the terminal surface, and deep beneath the Earth's crust, massive fusion reactors began powering up. "It's time to show them exactly what humanity can do when peace isn't an option." Across the solar system, hidden installations began shedding their civilian disguises. Asteroid mining operations transformed into military shipyards. Research stations revealed energy weapon arrays. And in the Kuiper Belt, the largest fleet humanity had ever built awakened from its camouflaged slumber. The galaxy was about to learn why you don't kill a human diplomat offering to save your people. The Vicari's celebration of their dominance lasted exactly 6 hours. Ambassador Thex of the Centauri Confederation stared at his sensor readings in disbelief. Across Earth's solar system, what had appeared to be routine orbital platforms were transforming. The holographic camouflage that had fooled the galaxy's best detection systems for decades simply melted away, revealing the true nature of humanity's orbital infrastructure. "Impossible," he whispered, watching as massive battle stations emerged from their disguises as weather satellites. Their technological level. We assessed them wrong. We assessed everything wrong. The quantum communicator on his desk chimed. Every quantum communicator in the galaxy chimed simultaneously, a feat that should have been technologically impossible. Admiral Catherine Reynolds's face appeared on every diplomatic channel, her expression as cold as the void of space. To all galactic nations, the Vicari Imperium has committed an act of war against Earth by executing our diplomat, Dr. Emma Reynolds. We hereby announce the implementation of the Terra Covenant. In high orbit around Jupiter, what had been registered as a deep space research facility unfurled into a sprawling shipyard. Similar transformations occurred around Saturn, Mars, and in the asteroid belt. Each facility bore the same marking, a phoenix rising from Earth's silhouette. Commander Torres coordinated the reveal from his station in the Pentagon bunker. Admiral, quantum network synchronization at 100%. The Vicari are attempting to jam our transmissions. Catherine allowed herself a small smile. Let them try. Emma's quantum entanglement communications make their relay network obsolete. Display our reach. Across every inhabited world in the galaxy, holographic projections sprang to life in government chambers and public spaces. They showed the true extent of Earth's military preparations. Thousands of ships emerging from hidden docks, weapon systems that defied conventional physics, and defense platforms that made the Vicari's best technology look primitive. In the Vicari High Council chamber, Chancellor Voss watched with growing horror as his military advisors reported the impossible. Humanity's vessels were appearing inside supposedly secure space, bypassing defensive lines that had stood for centuries. How? He demanded, his membrane colors shifting to show fear. They were contained. Primitive. We monitored every shipment, every transmission. His chief intelligence officer activated a holographic display. They hid everything in plain sight, Chancellor. Those routine maintenance pods we approve for their communication satellites. Quantum computer cores. The medical research vessels. Weapon platforms with regenerative hull technology. Even their cargo containers had dual purposes. On Earth, Catherine accessed her sister's final message, broadcasting it across the quantum network. Emma's voice reached every corner of known space. Protocol Omega activated. The dream of peace dies here, but the dream of justice lives on. Execute Operation Echo. The orbital platforms around Earth synchronized their power cores. Deep space sensors recorded an energy surge that made nearby stars look dim in comparison. In an instant, humanity's quantum communication network connected every human vessel and installation into a single unified battle consciousness. Vicari warships found their targeting systems useless against vessels that seemed to predict their attacks before they were launched. Their encrypted commands were intercepted and countermanded before they could even be executed. Every strategy in their military database was suddenly worthless against an enemy that operated as a single coordinated entity. Admiral, Torres reported, the Vicari are attempting to regroup at their primary naval base in the Arcturus sector. Catherine studied the tactical display, watching as humanity's hidden fleet emerged from quantum shadows throughout explored space. Send them a message, Commander. Tell them this is just the beginning. Tell them every piece of technology they mocked us for not having. We had it all along. We just chose to wait. She paused at her command station, touching the small hologram of her sister that floated above her desk. And tell them Dr. Emma Reynolds' final diplomatic offer still stands. They can surrender and accept our medical technology, or they can learn exactly how much more we've been hiding. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity's vessels took up strategic positions around every major Vicari military installation. The message was clear. Earth hadn't been trapped in its solar system. It had been gathering intelligence and preparing for a war it hoped would never come. The Vicari's most sophisticated detection grid registered nothing unusual in the Proxima Centauri sector. Then their most important monitoring station simply vanished. Admiral Catherine Reynolds watched from her command center as the stealth fleet's first strike succeeded. The Vicari's pride and joy. Their supposedly impenetrable early warning system had just been neutralized without firing a single traditional shot. Shadow Squadron 1 reports success, Commander Torres announced, his hands dancing across the holographic interface. The dark matter drives performed exactly as designed. No energy signature, no visual trace. On the main display, dots of red representing Vicari monitoring stations began winking out across the galactic map. Each disappearance represented a precision strike by vessels that, according to every known law of physics, shouldn't exist. The Vicari are dispatching investigation teams, Torres reported. They still haven't detected our ships. Catherine nodded, remembering Emma's contribution to this moment. My sister spent 3 years negotiating routine sensor calibration exchanges with them. They gave us the exact specifications we needed to become invisible to their technology. Inside the Ghost Fleet's lead vessel, Captain Sarah Mitchell watched her crew guide their ship through the invisible corridors of dark space. The vessel's hull, composed of quantum-shifted materials, absorbed every scan that touched it. The dark matter engine core pulsed silently, drawing power from the very fabric of space-time. Next target acquired, her tactical officer reported. Vicari Command Node 7, their biggest data collection hub in this sector. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Execute infiltration pattern Delta. Let's show them why they should have paid more attention to those primitive human science fiction stories about stealth technology. The Ghost Fleet moved like shadows between stars. Each ship carried a hybrid crew, human intuition paired with quantum AI tactical systems. They struck with surgical precision, dismantling the Vicari's monitoring network piece by piece. In the Vicari High Command, panic was setting in. Chancellor Voss watched helplessly as his empire went blind. Another station gone. His military commander reported, mandibles clicking in distress. No debris, no energy signatures, no warning. It's like they're being erased from existence. Voss slammed his appendage against the command console. Impossible. Their ships can't be that advanced. We monitored every component they purchased, every technology they developed. A junior analyst spoke up, his voice trembling. Sir, we're detecting unusual dark matter concentrations near our lost stations. According to our records, the humans requested extensive data about dark matter detection capabilities during trade negotiations. They claimed it was for astronomical research. In Earth's command center, Catherine received an urgent communication from the Centauri Confederation. Ambassador Thex's face appeared on the quantum link, his expression a mixture of awe and fear. Admiral Reynolds, he began, the Galactic Council requests information about these ghost ships. The level of technology you're displaying far exceeds anything in known space. Catherine's response was measured. Ambassador, while the Vicari were laughing at our primitive space program, we were building something they couldn't imagine. Every trade mission, every diplomatic exchange, every seemingly innocent request for technical specifications, it was all preparation for this moment. She paused, bringing up a tactical display showing the true extent of the Ghost Fleet's deployment. Thousands of ships, hidden in plain sight throughout human space, now moving with deadly purpose. The Vicari killed my sister because they thought we were weak, Catherine continued. They're about to learn that humanity's greatest strength is our ability to innovate in ways other species never consider. We don't just adapt technology, we reimagine it. The Ghost Fleet continued its methodical advance, each strike precisely calculated to maximize strategic impact while minimizing casualties. This wasn't about revenge, it was about demonstrating an inescapable truth. Humanity had outmaneuvered the galaxy's greatest military power through patience, ingenuity, and the willingness to think beyond conventional limitations. As another Vicari station disappeared into the void, Captain Mitchell transmitted a brief message back to Earth. Phase 3 complete. The darkness belongs to us now. The Vicari battle computer predicted a 99% chance of victory. Their flagship, the Eternal Dominion, led a fleet of 300 warships against a mere dozen human vessels near the Rigel sector. The combat algorithms were clear. This would be a slaughter. They were right about the slaughter part. Enemy fleet advancing in standard combat formation. Commander Torres reported from his station. Their tactical computers are following exactly the patterns we extracted from their military databases. Admiral Catherine Reynolds watched the holographic display with cold satisfaction. Execute Phoenix Protocol. Let's show them why human unpredictability is our greatest weapon. The human ships, seemingly outgunned and overwhelmed, started to break apart. The Vicari commanders celebrated what they thought was their first victory. Until the fragments began to move with purpose. Captain Lisa Walker, commanding the lead vessel Prometheus, felt the familiar sensation of her ship dissolving around her. The nanite swarms that comprised her vessel's structure were already reconfiguring, splitting one capital ship into dozens of smaller, faster attack craft. Nanite cohesion at optimal levels, her engineering chief reported. Quantum field maintaining crew safety during transformation. We are combat ready. The Vicari fleet's precise formation suddenly became their greatest weakness. Their ships, arranged to counter conventional capital ship tactics, found themselves swarmed by vessels that refused to follow the rules of space combat. Impossible. Chancellor Voss watched from his command center as the battle unfolded. Their ships, their changing configuration during combat. The predictive algorithms can't adapt. The human vessels continued their impossible dance. When Vicari weapons struck them, the nanite-based hulls absorbed the energy, using it to power their transformations. Ships that appeared destroyed would resurrect themselves in new forms, turning debris into weapons. Catherine's voice carried across the quantum network to all human vessels. Phase 2 of Phoenix Protocol. Show them what we learned from studying their weapon signatures. The transformed human ships began emitting exact replicas of Vicari energy signatures, confusing the enemy's friend or foe systems. In the chaos that followed, Vicari vessels started firing on each other, unable to distinguish friend from foe. Captain Walker's squadron reformed briefly into a massive energy collection array, absorbing the aftermath of a Vicari capital ship's destruction. Energy harvest complete, she reported, redirecting power to offensive configurations. The nanite swarms responded instantly, transforming the harvested energy into a barrage of weapons fire that adapted to each target's specific vulnerabilities. Ships that had been 12 became hundreds, then merged into 3 massive battlecruisers, then split again into swarms of fighter-sized craft. In the Pentagon Command Center, Torres monitored the quantum feeds from the battle. Admiral, the Vicari are attempting to rewrite their combat algorithms in real time. Catherine allowed herself a brief smile. Too late. Emma spent years studying their response patterns while negotiating technology exchanges. Their entire military doctrine is based on predictable, programmable responses. They never considered that chaos could be a strategy. The battle reached its climax as the human ships executed their most dramatic transformation yet. The entire squadron merged into a single massive vessel, larger than anything in the Vicari fleet. Then, as the enemy concentrated their fire on this new threat, it exploded into thousands of nanite-controlled projectiles that overwhelmed the remaining Vicari shields. In less than 30 minutes, the pride of the Vicari fleet had been reduced to scattered debris. Not a single human crew member was lost. Chancellor Voss received the battle reports with trembling appendages. How? He demanded of his tactical advisors. How did they develop this technology without us knowing? The answer came in a transmission from Admiral Reynolds. You called us primitive because we asked questions about basic technologies. You never wondered why a spacefaring species would need such simple information. Every time you explained your superior technology to us, you gave us another piece of the puzzle. We didn't just learn from your technology. We learned how to transcend it. As cleanup crews began salvage operations, Captain Walker transmitted the battle data back to Earth. The Vicari would learn soon enough that this demonstration of the Phoenix Protocol was just the beginning. Humanity had only revealed one of their many technological innovations, and they were just getting started. The Valkyrie population watched in stunned silence as their most secure media networks were simultaneously hijacked. On every screen, Dr. Emma Reynolds appeared, not as a victim, but as humanity's most powerful weapon against tyranny. People of the Valkyrie Imperium, Emma's recorded message began, "Your leaders have lied to you. The cancer treatment I offered wasn't a sign of human weakness. It was proof of our compassion. A compassion your leaders feared more than any weapon." Admiral Catherine Reynolds monitored the broadcast from the Pentagon's command center, her hand resting on the quantum terminal that had once connected her to her sister. "Begin Phase 2 of Operation Sunlight," she ordered. Commander Torres nodded. "Deploying data packets across their civilian networks now. Their sensors can't keep up with our quantum-encrypted transmissions." Across Valkyrie space, the truth unfolded in waves of revelations. Classified medical records showed millions dying from treatable diseases. Security footage revealed High Chancellor Voss rejecting human medical technology that could have saved countless lives. Financial data exposed how the elite hoarded resources while claiming technological limitations. In the capital city of the Valkyrie homeworld, crowds gathered in the streets. Their natural bioluminescence, usually carefully controlled, flickered with growing anger. "The humans offered us healing." A prominent medical researcher addressed the crowd, his voice trembling with rage. "Our leaders chose pride over our lives. They chose power over progress." Catherine received real-time updates as civil unrest spread across the Imperium. "Your sister's final gift." Torres observed quietly. "She gave us everything we needed to break their control from within." Emma understood that the strongest empires can fall to their own lies. Catherine replied, "Launch the next phase." Quantum-encrypted messages flooded Valkyrie communication channels, each containing proof of governmental deception. Trade records showed how human technology had been systematically suppressed. Military logs revealed the true extent of casualties from treatable diseases among Valkyrie forces. In the High Council chamber, Chancellor Voss faced a rebellion from his own advisors. "The humans didn't just prepare for war," his chief scientist declared. "They studied our society. They found our breaking point." "Impossible," Voss raged. "They're primitives. They couldn't possibly understand our social structures." A holographic projection of Emma appeared in the chamber, another recorded message. "Chancellor, while you dismissed us as primitives, we were learning. Every diplomatic mission, every trade negotiation, every cultural exchange taught us exactly how your society worked. You never realize that our questions about your customs were mapping the fault lines in your empire." On the streets, the revolution spread like wildfire. Valkyrie citizens, their bioluminescence pulsing with shared purpose, stormed government buildings. Military units, faced with proof of how their own families had suffered, stood down or joined the protesters. "Admiral," Torres reported, "Valkyrie military effectiveness has dropped by 60%. Their command structure is fragmenting as unit commanders demand answers about the suppressed medical technology." Catherine activated a general broadcast to all human forces. "Hold positions. Let them tear down their own walls of deception. Every shot we don't fire proves Emma right. Our strength lies in healing, not destroying." In orbit above the Valkyrie homeworld, Captain Sarah Mitchell observed the unfolding chaos from her stealth vessel. "Who would have thought?" She commented to her bridge crew, "that the truth would hit harder than any weapon we could have deployed." The final phase of Operation Sunlight began as Earth released complete documentation of their offered medical treatments, not just to the Valkyrie, but to every species in known space. The message was clear. Humanity had developed cures for diseases that plagued advanced civilizations, only to have their aid rejected by the Valkyrie's pride. As riots engulfed the capital, Chancellor Voss received one last message from Admiral Reynolds. "You killed my sister because you thought teaching you to heal was an act of primitive presumption. Now your empire falls, not to our weapons, but to the weight of your own lies." Emma would have appreciated the irony. The revolution had begun, powered not by human weapons, but by the truth they had carefully gathered and precisely deployed. The Vicari were learning that sometimes the most devastating attack comes not from battlefield technology, but from facing one's own reflection. The Vicari's most advanced firewall detected the intrusion exactly 3 seconds after their entire defense network had already been compromised. By then, it was far too late. Operation Blackout is in effect. Commander Torres announced, his fingers dancing across quantum-encrypted controls. The dormant code is awakening in every system that ever processed a human trade transaction. Admiral Catherine Reynolds watched as the massive display showed Vicari military networks lighting up like a cascade of falling stars. Show me their command and control center. A holographic feed revealed chaos in the Vicari military headquarters. Their supposedly autonomous defense platforms were turning, targeting their own ships with precision that could only have come from intimate knowledge of their systems. How long? Chancellor Voss demanded of his cyber warfare division. How long have the humans been inside our networks? His chief systems analyst trembled, multiple limbs working frantically across control surfaces. The code. It's been here for years. Every time we accepted a human trading vessel, every routine software update we approved, they were building a backdoor 1 pixel at a time. Catherine opened a channel to Captain Lisa Walker's stealth fleet. Execute Phase 2. Show them what else we learned during those primitive trade missions. Across Vicari space, their automated manufacturing plants suddenly began producing components that made no sense to their operators. Assembly lines that had been building weapons now created medical devices, using the exact specifications that Dr. Emma Reynolds had offered in her final diplomatic mission. Impossible. Voss watched as his military-industrial complex transformed before his eyes. Their coding capabilities were assessed as basic. Their quantum computing was theoretical. The truth dawned on his advisors too late. Every human trade mission had carried quantum processors disguised as routine navigation computers. Each diplomatic visit had seeded their networks with dormant programs that learned, evolved, and waited for this moment. In Earth's command center, Torres pulled up a new display. Admiral, their counterattack is beginning. They're attempting to purge their systems. Catherine allowed herself a small smile. Let them try. Emma designed these infiltration protocols herself. The more they fight against the code, the deeper it goes. The Vicari's desperate attempts at cyber warfare proved futile against an enemy that had spent years learning every detail of their systems. Their best computer experts watched in horror as their defensive algorithms were turned against them, each countermeasure becoming a new weapon in humanity's arsenal. Send the next signal, Catherine ordered. Let's show them what happens when you underestimate human ingenuity. Vicari warships, their crews helpless, began executing complex maneuvers that exposed critical weaknesses in their formation. Defense platforms recalibrated their shields to frequencies that human weapons could easily penetrate. Even their civilian infrastructure turned against them, with transportation networks rerouting to create tactical advantages for Earth's forces. Admiral, Torres reported, we're detecting massive data transfers from their central military archives. Their entire tactical database is being rewritten with human combat protocols. In the Vicari High Command, panic turned to resignation as they realized the full scope of humanity's infiltration. Every system they had pridefully displayed to prove their superiority had become a weapon in human hands. Your sister's code, Torres said quietly to Catherine. It's not just dismantling their defenses. It's teaching their systems a new way to think. Catherine nodded. Emma believed the best victory isn't destroying your enemy's capability to fight. It's showing them why they shouldn't want to fight at all. Through their compromised communications, Chancellor Voss received one final message from Earth. The hologram showed Emma Reynolds, recorded during her last day alive. Chancellor, you thought our questions about your computer systems showed ignorance. The truth is, we understood them better than you did. Every time you demonstrated your superiority, you gave us another key to your kingdom. The code you're fighting isn't just a weapon, It's an education. As Vicary ships powered down one by one, their crews watched helplessly as their own technology turned against them. They had killed a human diplomat offering peace, only to discover that humanity's real power wasn't in their weapons, but in their ability to turn an enemy's strength into their greatest vulnerability. The first sign that something was wrong came from the Vicary capital's environmental systems. Artificial gravity flickered, just for a moment. Within hours, similar reports flooded in from every major Vicary world. Project Singularity is online, Commander Torres reported, his voice tight with anticipation. Quantum field manipulators are functioning at optimal levels. Admiral Catherine Reynolds stood before the tactical display, watching as targeted gravitational anomalies began appearing across Vicary space. Begin transmission to all Vicary frequencies. Chancellor Voss, already reeling from the collapse of his military and information networks, received the broadcast in his emergency bunker. The hologram showed Catherine, her uniform pristine, her expression resolute. "Those routine trade scans you permitted," she began, "the ones measuring background radiation and gravitational constants. They weren't for navigation data. They were mapping the quantum signatures of every world in your empire." On the Vicary homeworld's largest space station, panic erupted as artificial gravity began cycling randomly. Entire sections of the facility drifted apart, held together only by emergency magnetic fields. "Impossible," Voss spat, his color patterns showing pure terror. "Controlling gravity at this scale would require technology you thought we were decades away from developing." Catherine finished for him. "The same way you thought our medical technology was primitive. The same way you dismissed my sister's offering of help as presumption." Commander Torres activated a secondary display. "Admiral, gravitational control established over all major Vicary military installations. Their planetary defense grids are experiencing targeted fluctuations." In orbit around the Vicary capital, Captain Sarah Mitchell's stealth fleet monitored the effects of Project Singularity. Her ship's sensors, recorded as massive defense platforms, pride of the Vicary military, began drifting from their carefully calculated positions. "Send visual feed to all Vicary channels," Catherine ordered. "Let them see what happens when you underestimate human innovation." Across every screen in the Imperium, citizens watched as their mighty space stations and orbital platforms moved like toys in an invisible wind. Precision gravitational fields lifted entire sections of military bases off the ground, suspending them helplessly in midair. "Your gravity manipulation technology," Voss managed through mandibles that wouldn't stop shaking, "it's beyond anything. Beyond anything you thought possible from primitives." Catherine's voice carried no satisfaction, only cold purpose. "While you were laughing at our simple questions about gravitational theory, we were learning how to rewrite the laws of physics themselves." In the Pentagon Command Center, Torres monitored the cascading effects. "Admiral, the Vicary Defense Ministry is experiencing total gravitational failure. Their entire command structure is literally floating." Catherine nodded, bringing up one final display. Emma's last research notes on Vicary gravitational technology. "My sister spent years studying your dependence on artificial gravity. She knew it was your civilization's linchpin. Even in death, she's showing us how to end this war without destroying your worlds." Across Vicary space, military vessels found themselves unable to maintain formation as localized gravity wells pulled them off course. Ground forces watched helplessly as their heavy weapons and vehicles lifted into the air, rendered useless by humanity's control over the fundamental forces of nature. "You have a choice, Chancellor," Catherine's transmission continued. "Surrender, accept the medical technology you executed my sister for offering, and we'll restore gravitational stability. Continue to resist, and watch as your civilization drifts apart, not from destruction, but from the simple absence of the force that holds everything together." In orbit, Captain Mitchell's sensors detected massive energy signatures as the Vicary attempted to counteract the gravitational anomalies. Their efforts proved futile against technology that had evolved far beyond their understanding. "A final message from Dr. Reynolds," Catherine announced, playing Emma's last recorded words. The greatest power isn't in destroying your enemy's ability to fight. It's in showing them how small they truly are in the face of forces they thought they understood. The Vicari Imperium, which had stood for millennia, found itself facing an enemy that didn't just control their technology or their information. Humanity controlled the very forces that held their civilization together. The surrender of the Vicari Imperium took exactly 3 minutes. It would have been faster, but quantum encryption protocols had to verify the authentication codes. Chancellor Voss, his ornate ceremonial armor dulled by the events of recent days, stood before the assembled Galactic Council. Representatives from every spacefaring race watched as humanity's response to a single death rewrote the balance of power across known space. Admiral Catherine Reynolds entered the chamber, her steps measured, her uniform bearing a single new addition, a medical insignia pin that had once belonged to her sister. Commander Torres followed 2 steps behind, carrying a quantum-secured case. The terms of surrender are simple, Catherine announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. The Vicari Imperium will implement all medical technologies that Dr. Emma Reynolds offered during her final mission. Every world, every citizen, regardless of status. Voss's color patterns shifted in confusion. You're not demanding territory. Resources, military technology. Catherine opened the case Torres carried, revealing a holographic projection of advanced medical facilities. My sister didn't die trying to conquer your empire. She died trying to save your people. We're going to ensure her death wasn't meaningless. The Galactic Council chambers erupted in murmurs. Captain Sarah Mitchell, watching from her command chair in orbit, smiled as she transmitted the proceedings to every corner of known space. The message was clear. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their hidden fleets or gravity weapons. It was their capacity for mercy. The Reynolds Institute for Interstellar Medicine will be established on neutral ground, Catherine continued. All species will have access to Earth's medical advances. In return, we ask for cooperation in developing new treatments, sharing knowledge that can benefit all sentient life. From her station monitoring the Vicari capital, Captain Lisa Walker reported a surprising development. Spontaneous celebrations had broken out across their worlds, not because they had survived humanity's wrath, but because their people would finally receive the medical care they desperately needed. Furthermore, Catherine activated a second hologram, showing Emma's final research notes. We're sharing our technological advances with all council races. The quantum networks, the gravity control systems, everything we developed in secret. It will be used to improve lives, not take them. Commander Torres stepped forward, initiating the quantum transfer of technical data. The first packages include Dr. Reynolds' complete research on cellular regeneration. She believed every species deserved access to medical breakthroughs, regardless of political differences. The Centauri ambassador rose from his seat. Earth has demonstrated power beyond anything we imagined, yet they choose to share knowledge rather than dominate. This is unprecedented. Catherine touched her sister's medical pin. Emma taught me that true strength isn't in having the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. It's in knowing when to use power to heal rather than harm. As the council session concluded, the newly formed Galactic Concordat took shape. Earth emerged not as a conquering force, but as a leader in collaborative research and development. The Reynolds Institute became a symbol of interstellar cooperation, its medical breakthroughs saving millions across all species. In her private quarters later that day, Catherine found one last message from Emma, hidden in the quantum data stream of her final transmission. Dear Katie, if you're seeing this, then the Vicari chose pride over progress. Don't let my death become an excuse for vengeance. Show them what I always believed, that humanity's greatest achievement isn't in our ability to win wars, but in our capacity to prevent them through understanding and compassion. The technology I died protecting wasn't just about healing bodies. It was about healing the rifts between civilizations. Make them understand what I died trying to teach them. Admiral Reynolds stood at her window, watching as ships from dozens of species docked at the newly constructed Reynolds Institute. In death, Emma had achieved what she couldn't in life: a galaxy united not by fear of humanity's power, but by appreciation of their wisdom. They had killed a single human diplomat. In response, humanity hadn't just demonstrated their superiority. They had transformed the galaxy's understanding of true strength.